ocean temperatures are changing on a global scale. More and more American lobsters are being found further north, possibly fleeing rising ocean temperatures caused by climate change. The lobster's migration north is bad news for the U.S. fishery and is leading to record catches on Canada's east coast. What crawls into these traps today could wind up in fancy restaurants, cooking pots, and dinner plates anywhere from Denver to Dubai. But 100 years ago, lobster wasn't a glamorous meal. It was considered food fit only for poor people working along the coast. That's because dead, uncooked lobster breaks down and becomes toxic quickly, and so it couldn't be shipped inland. These days, modern fishing boats with saltwater tanks on board and live shipping by air have changed everything. As a matter of law, to preserve the lucrative industry, fishermen around here are masters of the lobster's anatomy. Juveniles, judged by the length of a particular shell segment, must be released, so they have a chance to breed. Egg-bearing females like this, with thousands of shiny black eggs clinging to her underside, are tossed back too. Only one egg in 10,000 will make it to adulthood, so returning a female lobster to the water today is an investment in the future of a fishery already facing change. Down below, the world of the lobster is dark and mysterious. Life on the murky bottom means lobsters sense the world mostly through touch and scent. They use their long antennae and powerful sense of smell to find food and identify other lobsters. Their eyes are made of thousands of little lenses. They can only sense movement and shadows, and not much else. Lobsters come in a broad palette of colors, but they are mostly brownish-green, camouflaging with the ocean floor. The red color lobsters are famous for comes from a pigment found in proteins while the lobster is alive. Proteins break down with heat, so you only see that bright scarlet color once the lobster is cooked. Lobsters crawl around on 10 legs, including the big ones with the claws up front. They have a reputation as scavengers, but the truth is they will eat just about anything. Fish, crabs, and even other lobsters, especially in places where populations are high. Lobsters can be left or right-handed, depending on which side the large crusher claw is on. This one is a lefty, and this one's a righty. The crusher claw is strong enough to break open a crab, a clam, or a mussel, while the other, smaller, more agile claw on the other side scrapes out the meat. Lobster DNA is programmed for limitless growth, but that doesn't mean they live forever. Lobsters have to molt their shell every year. The bigger the lobster, the more energy it takes. Some get so big they die of exhaustion while molting. The lobsters that end up on most dinner plates weigh half a kilogram. Just kids by lobster standards. About 8 years old. Along the shores of the Bay of Fundy, lobsters aren't the only wild-caught creatures making waves on menus. The East Coast scallop fishery is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Scallops may not look like swift swimmers, but underwater they reveal some remarkable maneuvers. The scallop is a bivalve. Its shell is made of two symmetrical halves, connected by a hinge. The shells protect their soft internal organs, the ones prized by chefs, and by predators, like this northern sea star. The starfish's legs are covered with hundreds of tiny tube-shaped feet. Each one has a suction cup at the tip. Moving in concert, all these little feet let the starfish locomote across the ocean floor. It can use its suction cups and powerful legs to pry open the scallop's shell and eat what's inside. But the scallop has a few tricks of its own. Unlike most other bivalves, scallops can jump and even swim, if only for short distances. They achieve tiny jet-propelled bursts of speed by clapping their shell together and forcing water out. It's thanks to their powerful adductor muscle. That's actually the part of the scallop most people are familiar with. The tight, squat cylinder of white muscle. The scallop's orange roe, which chefs call the coral, is also considered a delicacy. Scallops and crabs are both popular menu items for the American lobster, too. Rock crabs are an important part of the food web here. In some places, they make up 50% of the lobster's diet. They're also an important prey item for other rock crabs. Cannibalism is a fact of life for crustaceans on the ocean floor. That's why crabs and lobsters aren't farmed commercially like other valuable sea species. Put too many of them close together, and they start eating each other. The shallower waters close to shore are rough and tumble places. Waves and tides turn and churn the rocky bottom and toss about the creatures that live here. This Acadian hermit crab protects itself from the elements and predators by living in shells left by dead snails and other mollusks. The shells protect the soft abdomen of these 10-legged crustaceans, which aren't exactly crabs, but are a sort of distant cousin. Hermit crabs are true scavengers, eating algae, plants, and even other hermit crabs that have died. Nowadays, there's a new predator on the scene, who sends the hermit crabs scurrying away. This is nothing less than an alien invasion of these waters. The green crab is moving north. A native of Europe, the green crab has been wreaking havoc on North America's eastern waters since arriving in ship's ballast nearly 2 centuries ago. They're notoriously hard on plant life, tearing up delicate meadows of eelgrass as they seek out their prey. Eelgrass forms valuable underwater habitats by collecting sediment in shallow estuaries and tidal areas. The ribbons of grass form a protected nursery for juvenile fish of several species. These fish feed the birds and so on, onward and upward through the food web. And it all begins here in the eelgrass.